Okay, so this is our monthly Cosmobiology Institute research meeting. Christopher and I are here to guide us through, lead the conversation. Usually we have more people. We have just a handful. So um, I guess it means you'll get special attention. Oh, good. Vincent's coming on. He often can't make it to these meetings. Um,
I think Linda's coming too.
yeah, okay. So welcome, Vincent. Good to have you as well. In fact, I was having some email correspondence with Vincent today on his research. That's something we can get into if nothing else comes up. Okay, a few more people are coming in. I don't have any questions. Greg Howard is working on some things, but he can't make it tonight. Probably next month, we'll go through Greg's research. Our purpose here is to help you understand research, pursue research, anything you want to do. And Christopher, do you have any opening remarks or comments? The both of us, um, guide us through these meetings.
Uh, Nothing in particular.
Okay, good. Well, we have an hour and a half. What's on your minds? If not, I'd like to talk about Vincent's research on death. I was having some correspondence with him today, clarifying exactly how that's done. But anybody else?
I have one thing on my mind, David.
Yeah.
I'd love to know where I can find the research that was done by you and I believe someone else on rethinking, re-envisioning the part of redemption.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay. The part of redemption. Um, I've made some tutorial videos about it. I might have written an article. I'm not
I
sure.
think you have an old article on your website. I'll go watch the videos. I didn't realize you had made videos
I
about it.
might have. Let's go see. Okay, so if we go to astrologydc.com, that's my website, and we go down to systems and perspectives, and here's some information about Arabic parts in Hellenistic and harmonic astrology. What this is about is that Arabic parts um, have been used for at least 2,000 years. They go all the way back to the Hellenistic astrology, which is where some of our earliest information is from outside of things like fixed stars, nakshatras, and a few other things. Um, so the Arabic parts are relatively old. And one of the things that I noticed, other people have noticed it, Reinhold Everton, the guy who founded cosmobiology, he was aware of it, that there's a mathematical elegance to Arabic parts, and they are they involve angular distances that are equal. So when angular distances are equal, you could think of that as a resonance. So there appears to be a vibrational theory that we could apply to Arabic parts, which is quite fascinating because, as far as I know, the literature that's handed down from the years 300, 400, 500, talking about the Arabic parts, don't mention anything about resonance or why they would be important. They just give you this formula. And it ends up that there's a simple resonance going on. So I can talk about that. And part of the resonance in that's interesting is this. Let me let me bring up uh, the paint program. And what happens is if we have a circle, I'll just go over this quickly because it's really just theory and not research. And mostly we want to talk about research methods. But if we have a circle and if we have 3 points in the circle, I'll do them in blue for no reason. So let's say this, this, let me stretch this out a little bit. Let's say this X is the sun, and this X over here is the moon, and over here is the ascendant. Interestingly, there are 3 points that will make an isosceles trapezoid. So for example, one of them is here. So given 3 points, there are 3 other points that make a rectangle with the sides pushed in. So like a shape like this. I didn't draw very well, but you get the idea. You might remember from your basic geometry, it's called an isosceles trapezoid. It's basically a rectangle with 2 sides pushed in by the same amount. And this is a resonating pattern because the distance between this Arabic part, this is what an Arabic part is. It's a 4th point to 3 other points that creates this resonating system. And it's resonating because the distance of this planet, I said, which is the moon to the Arabic part, and the ascendant to the sun is the same. And then, of course, also the sides are the same. So I'll do it in red. This side is the same as this side. So there are 2 angular distances that are the same. And if they're like strings vibrating, they make the same note. And then there's 3 of these points. This is one, and you could play around with it and figure it out, but there'll be 3 of them. And if you use the sun, moon, and ascendant, one is the part of fortune, one is the part of spirit, and the other one they don't talk much about, but it was called by some astrologers the part of redemption. So 2 of the 3 mathematical points are commonly used by astrologers, and the 3rd one isn't used. So if Arabic parts are important because they create this beautiful, symmetrical, resonating system, that would imply there's a 3rd point made by the sun, moon, and ascendant that we have overlooked.
And that would be sun plus moon minus ascendant, right?
Right. The formula, very good. The formula to get this 4th point is you add 2 points and subtract the other one. So if you convert the positions to 360 notation and you take sun plus moon minus ascendant, sun plus ascendant minus moon, ascendant plus moon minus sun, there are 3 formulas. And so let's see, one of them is the part of fortune and spirit start with ascendant. They're ascendant plus sun minus moon, ascendant plus moon minus sun, and redemption is sun plus moon minus ascendant. So
I thought you named it. I thought you named it and made it up. So you're saying that I know Carl Payne Toby did work with that point, but he had another name for it. So does this actually go back to the Arabic?
Yes, it goes back to
the redemption.
It goes back to the Arabic stuff. If we, what's his name? The
Abu Mashar?
No, the great astrologer around the year 1000. What's his name? Al-Biruni.
Al-Biruni.
Al-Biruni, if I have this correct, according to one of the sources I read, Al-Biruni called it the part of redemption.
Thank you.
Yeah, Al-Biruni, by the way, was a genius. He could do like all kinds of stuff. He's a polymath. And yeah, he called it part of redemption. So that's where the name came from Al-Biruni's name for it. So it was not like it was completely unknown. It just somehow as far as we know, never became that popular. But mathematically it's equivalent, and it moves differently from these 3 things have a relationship with each other. The part of spirit and part of fortune are symmetrical around the ascendant, and there's all these cool symmetries that go on. So I don't know anybody else who's written about it or talked about it very much, but one of these videos at my website, I think goes into it. Um, Under Ancient Western and History of Astrology, probably this one, Arabic Parts in Hellenistic and Harmonic Astrology, where I'm showing that it's a Hellenistic idea, but it makes sense using modern harmonic ideas. Um, Might be another one under vibrational. I don't know. We can look at these titles. Um, yeah, I know I'm almost positive that I made
A
another video
video?
about it. Um, that's the same one. Oh, this goes into quite a bit of detail. Arabic parts, the importance of twin parts, cousin parts. These are terms I made up. So there's relationships between Arabic parts, sacred geometry of Arabic parts. So these three videos plus the other one, um,
which is right above it, 29.
oh, we should, thank you. So they're all together.
29
So
through
29 through
31.
32, this is under vibrational astrology advanced. This one right here. There's 800 videos in here, so like you have to have some way to find these things. Um, yeah, so 29 through 32 under vibrational astrology advanced. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, David. Thank you. That's all I needed to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Santino?
Yeah. Also, if you do a search and you type Arabic, it'll find them. 29 through. Oh, here's another one. Oh, this is the article. Oh, so I do have an article about it. But it might, that, I don't think the article goes into the part of redemption. But yeah, all this stuff. So if you just go in the search and type Arabic, you'll find all those videos. And I know at least one of them talks about redemption, probably two of them or so. Okay, Christopher.
Yeah. While we're talking about Arabic parts, I just thought I'd throw in that in 2018, Dr. Kyosti Tarvainen, he did a little study which concluded that a single formula for part of fortune, I think uh, ascendant plus moon minus sun, worked better than having two separate formulas, a day formula and a night formula for part of fortune.
Mm-hmm.
Whose
Wow.
research was that, Christopher? Whose research?
Kyosti Tarvainen.
Can you put it in the chat?
Yeah,
I double
it
dare
was.
you. I double dare you to spell that. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read it. It was in a Journal of Research of the American Federation of Astrologers
Oh, okay. I can find it there. No problem.
back in 2018. And I made a little note about it. I'll just copy that from one of my Word files and put it in the chat for you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
So he found that ascendant plus moon minus sun works better than ascendant plus sun minus moon.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, he's a brilliant writer and researcher, this guy. You said his name. I've just never heard his name said before. He's great.
Yeah.
And this is the modern part of fortune formula.
Right.
And the ascendant plus sun minus moon is the modern part of spirit formula. In medieval and Hellenistic astrology, it's more complicated. Depends on whether you're born during the day or at night. But in the modern formula, it's simpler. So, Christopher, do you remember how he tested what works or doesn't work? I mean,
No, I haven't read that article because I don't have access to that journal. It's not in correlation.
right. Okay.
I
So
might have
I
it.
just saw it as a footnote in some other research I was going through.
Yeah, because I wonder how he confirmed it. I mean, what did he expect to happen?
Which journal was it?
The AFA Journal, Linda.
Hmm.
That's going to be brought back, and Tino's going to write articles for it, and so will you. We're bringing it back. And maybe Vincent will.
My arm.
You know, when you talk about the interpretation of these 3 points,
Yeah.
you've got like, okay, ascendant plus moon minus sun equals Venus. Okay, in that case, just by subtracting sun from both sides, you have ascendant plus moon equals sun plus Venus divided by 2. You've got the midpoint of the ascendant and the moon equal to the midpoint of the sun and Venus, which says that it's a sun energy, sun interacting with the point that they're equivalent to in the part of fortune, a moon energy in the part of spirit, and an ascendant energy in the part of redemption.
All right. So basically, let's say, let me go over what Linda just said. Let's say these 3 blue X's here, again, the one on the left is the ascendant, this one towards the top is the sun, this one's the moon. And suppose this red X in this other corner is Venus. That means Venus is conjunct the part of fortune or part of spirit, whatever. It's conjunct one of these points, or it might be part of redemption. It's conjunct one of the 3 points that makes this formula. So what happens is you can do a little arithmetic on this where, well, I don't want that. Where did it go?
Basic algebra.
Yeah, you can do some basic algebra. So we can say ascendant, if Venus equals ascendant plus moon minus sun, then what do you want to do? You want to add the sun to both sides?
Yep.
Yeah, so we're going to add the sun to both sides, and we get Venus plus sun equals ascendant plus moon.
And if you
Right.
just divide both sides by 2, it shows that you're really talking about the midpoint. The midpoint of sun and Venus is equal to the midpoint of
Yeah,
ascendant.
now if you remember your algebra, anything you do to one side of equation, you do the other side. Here we added sun to both sides. We can divide both sides by 2. And that would give us, I'll write it as a separate thing. I mean, why not? There's nothing to stop you from doing that. So I could divide both sides by 2. Well, if you add 2 planets together and divide by 2, that's the midpoint. So that means, Linda has proven using algebra that if you have Venus equals ascendant plus moon minus sun, that means the midpoint of your sun-Venus midpoint is conjunct the midpoint of your ascendant-moon midpoint.
Yep.
It's just a very tight orb for Venus to conjunct that part
Yeah,
to make an isotrap.
It
yeah,
has to be no more than 3 degrees to be an isotrap using midpoint measurements.
yeah, and even that's generous, right? I mean,
I think
we
that's
need to
too
do more
generous, yeah.
research, but
Yeah, well, that will create an isotrap. If the Venus is within 3 degrees of the part of fortune point, you will have an isotrap. It will be a weak isotrap if it's at 3 degrees, but you will have an isotrap up to 3 degrees.
well, what'll happen is if Venus is 3 degrees away from the exact point that makes this isosceles trapezoid, the midpoint to midpoint will have half that orb, a degree and a half. So if you're using a degree and a half for midpoint to midpoint, then the orb would be 3 degrees. Because what's happening here is there's a line of symmetry right down the middle of this thing. So this purple thing is this line of symmetry. The right side and left side are identical. That means the midpoint of these top 2 things and the midpoint of the bottom 2 are conjunct or opposition. They're aligned. We sometimes call that. So there's always a midpoint to midpoint configuration. It's either a conjunction or opposition. Those 2 midpoint axes are identical. In fact, you can think of an isosceles trapezoid as a midpoint to midpoint. It's another way of saying the same thing. because an isosceles trapezoid always makes a midpoint to midpoint, and midpoint to midpoint is always an isosceles trapezoid. They're just two different facts about the same shape. Yeah, and these were heavily used in Uranian astrology.
I was talking about that.
Yeah.
Because that was my point.
Yeah,
Excuse me, David.
Yeah.
Santino. I wanted to say, actually, formally, it's not different than planetary picture with 4 points. It's A minus B equals C minus D. I know the symbolism and the interpretation is complete, the context is completely different, but it's the same pattern.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
so A minus B.
My question would be, any person who would have done a kind of exegetic research about connecting Arabic part and planetary picture to see if they have some common.
Yeah. Let me catch everybody up.
Common?
Yeah, let me catch everybody up on the language because not everybody knows all this language.
Okay.
These isosceles, but this is wonderful. Thank you, Vincent. This is so cool. But I just want to catch people up a little bit. This shape, which is called an isosceles trapezoid, it's a rectangle with two sides pushed in by the same amount, is a really special shape. To many people, it's been used in esoteric groups a lot. It's on the United States dollar bill, etc. And it has these double resonances. This shape, in vibrational astrology, we sometimes call it isotrap, which is short for isosceles trapezoid. Some people call it midpoint to midpoint because it is a midpoint to midpoint. And some people call it A minus B equals C minus D because two sides are the same, which means this point minus this point and this point minus this point. Whenever you have two angular distances that are the same, you have an isotrap. This is the fascinating thing. You can look at it several different ways and they're all true. It's really, you got to love this stuff. If you have two angular distances that are the same, that's an isotrap. It's also a midpoint to midpoint. And it was called, one more thing I want to say, in Uranian astrology, it was called a planetary picture, I should say.
Planetary picture. And if the translation bot is doing a bad job, it will say a planetary illustration.
Okay, because the Uranian astrology was developed in Germany, so sometimes you're getting bad translations to English.
I've got a point and a question, Santino.
Yeah.
This is the beautiful geometric case that you illustrated there. But actually, if we just go with A minus B to the left, red minus blue, and the other side, C minus D, which are equal, but actually, they could overlap. I mean, if they overlap, you lose the shape, but you still have the same equation. Let's say that your A minus B would be very big.
They can cross. Then they become the diagonals and they're still equal.
That's what I mean, Linda.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, they'll become diagonals, but then you'll have two other points that are equal.
Well, with the A minus B, you have two other points too, because you have the diagonals in addition to the sides.
And I think you would interpret it the same way in Uranian astrology, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so if you take A and you move it all the way to the right and you move C all the way left, they become the diagonals and then there's always two other sides.
Right.
So I think it's just arbitrary what you're calling A, B, C, and D. If you call A, B, and C, and D in this way, you're always going to have, I think you're always going to have this shape. You can't get away from it.
Yep.
If you can disprove me, Vincent, that would be wonderful. But I believe you're always going to end up with this shape, even if they cross, because the sides turn into diagonals and diagonals turn into sides as they cross.
The only time you don't exactly end up with that shape is if two of the points become equal, and then you have a midpoint.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, sure.
And if you're doing theoretical work, you can get rid of A, B, C, and D and just say Bob and Ted and Carol and Alice or something.
Right.
It actually
Yeah.
gives you, it actually liberates you from automatic thinking, automatic
Right.
algebraic thinking. So,
And what Linda's saying is that if A and C get, A is in the upper left and C is in the upper right. If I push those closer and closer and closer together till they're the same,
yep,
we have a midpoint structure.
exactly.
So a
Oh,
midpoint structure is a collapsed isotrap.
Yep.
That's a fascinating thought, Linda.
Oh, I just love this. This is the best
Yeah.
thing ever.
yeah.
Because there's a feeling in math and physics that when something is very simple and elegant, it's probably true. I mean,
Yep.
not definitely. Different people have different ideas about this. Roger Penrose is a big believer in it.
So a midpoint is a specialized isotrap.
Yeah, a midpoint structure is a special form of an isotrap. You could think of it that way, which
Mhm.
And
which is really beautiful because it makes all this like one thing,
It's
and
all one thing.
it's all about resonance. It's all vibration.
yeah,
So
if you
just as
go back to the
go ahead.
equation that you started out with, where you had Venus, I think, equal to ascendant plus sun
Yeah.
minus, yeah, yeah. If you just subtract ascendant from both sides, then that gives you the
Oh,
equality.
Yeah.
oh, beautiful. Yeah. So we're going to take this formula. Let me put it in bold. It's just amazing how simple it is. So instead of adding the
The
sun to
sun
both
does.
sides, I'm going to subtract
Yeah.
Ascendant.
the
The
ascendant.
ascendant.
So if I subtract, because it's algebra, I can subtract from both sides. If I subtract
Santino,
from both sides, hold on, Sam.
Santino, I think you were right before. I was wrong when I said, oh, they can cross. I think you're right. When you got A minus B equals C minus E, we always find a combination that gives you a trapezoid. I'm
Okay,
not sure, but I just checked it a few cases, and I think you're right.
okay, okay, cool, cool. Okay. Well, that's the fun of this, because you have different people looking at it in different ways. So I love what Christopher just pointed out. If I subtract the ascendant from this bold formula, I end up with the formula often used in Uranian astrology, A minus
Yes.
D equals C minus D. That's how they often refer to it.
Yeah.
Um, and then you can also look at it as a midpoint to midpoint, as Linda explained. When you add a planet, divide both sides by 2.
It's just different ways of seeing the same thing.
Yeah,
Yep.
But
this
my
one
question,
shape does many things simultaneously and equally.
my
There
question,
is one other interesting point about this.
Yeah,
What this means is that for any 3 points in the chart, there are 3 places around the chart where those 3 points will form an isotrap.
yes.
Mhm.
And here's a wonderful idea about this Arabic part is suppose you have compatibility. If somebody has a planet at that 4th point,
Yeah.
you could think of it as they are making these other 3 points vibrate, or you might say sing to get a little more poetically, with your planet. So having a planet conjunct somebody's part of fortune or part of spirit or part of redemption, in theory, would be activating the 3 points astrologers often consider to be foundational: sun, moon, and ascendant.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was teaching this in class once many years ago, and one of the people in the class said, I just looked at my husband's chart. His Venus is conjunct my part of fortune, like within minutes. From which we
What do you
concluded,
think about that?
her birth time is probably very accurate because
That's probably a nice marriage.
yeah. Well, she was beaming in great joy about it. Yeah. So the but it depends on the ascendant position. So if it really is accurate, there within minutes, it means her ascendant must be very accurate.
So it's interesting just what you and Linda were saying. So if we go backwards, if we have A equals BC A equals CD, and you go backwards to when A and B are drifting apart, this could give you a really interesting orb. Do you understand what I'm saying, David? So if we say that every midpoint is a collapsed isotrap, if we uncollapse it, different planets are going to take different amounts of time. So
Yeah.
you'll be able to go backwards or forwards, whichever, and see the dynamic process.
But the
And
thing about, right, the thing about a midpoint structure is usually you only have one planet there.
Right.
I mean, it's collapsed in the sense that the 2 points become one. But if you have a conjunction,
right,
like at new moon, if the new moon makes that the sun and moon at a new moon are
they're always
Right.
making a
on the part of
midpoint
fortune,
structure,
they're
you
always
could
on-
watch them
Yeah.
all separate, and at least for a little while, it'll turn into
Yeah.
an isotrap.
Very interesting process. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that would be fun to watch. In an animation, to watch the sun and moon come together,
and go
and the
back.
isotrap would form at a certain point, and then it would become a midpoint, and it would turn to an isotrap, and then the isotrap would disappear. So
Right.
that would be very cool to watch.
And
I'm wondering if the wife, if she thought her husband was the most handsomest man, kind of a thing, with that Venus conjunct the part of fortune.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Because that would confirm to me one way or the other whether or not it had much value to it or not.
Right.
Well, it might be more likely that he thought she was the most beautiful woman because it's his Venus on her
Yeah.
3 points.
would be interesting to research. But what you're talking about, David, is lunation animation, basically, because on a new moon, the part of fortune's always on the ascendant, and I think the part of spirit's always on the descendant, right?
Yes. When you have a new moon, well, let's do one. That's part of the symmetry.
No, they're both together at the ascendant because they're projecting from the ascendant. So the part of fortune and part of spirit will be conjunct the ascendant at a new moon and both conjunct the descendant at a full moon.
All
And they
right.
will mirror each other.
Right. Okay, you're right. That's what I was
Yeah,
thinking
yeah,
about.
yeah.
I
Thank
do
you.
it on the dial, Kai. So I
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you
Cool.
for
Thank you,
clarifying.
thank you, Kai.
Yeah, so if I do a new moon chart, just so everybody can follow what we're saying here. If I do a new moon chart, oh, am I sharing my screen? Yeah, I am.
Yes.
Okay, so if I do the new moon and I put in the part of fortune and part of spirit, I'll use the modern formula.
Spirit is somewhere there.
Where is it?
It's there.
Modern.
So spirit, you have to go into the asteroid slots and nodes into the additional someplace down in there. There you can select it in asteroid slots and nodes. You select spirit down there in the little box. Yeah.
There, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You never know I wrote this program. Okay. Such a
There it
scatterbrain.
is. There it is.
Okay, so there it is. Conjunct the ascendant.
You are not displaying something.
Where's fortune though?
Yeah, where's the choice of fortune on here? Oh, there it is, part of fortune.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Kai is correct. Fortune and spirit are conjunct the ascendant.
Which makes new moon births even more special now, right? In a sense. I never really thought about new moon births having them both.
Yeah.
Right.
But also the square, the half moon, will put it on the midheaven or the IC.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So basically, as the moon leaves the sun, these two things, well, let's do a time adjust. If I push this forward 2 hours, this is kind of cool. Let's go 2 hours after the new moon. The moon, of course, will move about 1 degree ahead of the sun. So I'm going to go 2 hours forward. The moon is 1 degree ahead of the sun, and fortune and spirit have separated 1 degree from the ascendant. So if I go another 2 hours, the moon is 2 degrees ahead of the sun, and fortune and spirit are 2 degrees away from the ascendant. So fortune and spirit will move symmetrically around the ascendant. So if I do the
Why don't you go to the first quarter moon? Just move 90 degrees.
Just for kicks.
yeah, let me just show you. Oh, I lost the new moon. Well, here you'll see, well, it's a little hard to see because everything's moving so fast. Well, anyway, I'd have to remove all the other planets, and you'd see these two separating. Yeah, and at quarter moon they'll be square. They'll separate. If I do it one day at
Quarter
a
moon, they'll
time,
be opposed to each other, won't they?
well, I'll move a day at a time, and you see what's happening. This thing here is spirit, this circle with a vertical line. This circle with an X, this
Right. Is
bluish
fortune.
thing, that's fortune. Fortunes and spirit are equidistant from the ascendant. Ascendant is conjunct the fortune spirit midpoint,
Yep.
always. So if I go the next day, see, and the next day, and the next day, see, they're spreading apart. And so there's a symmetry with this formula. And now the sun and moon are square.
And
And
they're opposed to each other.
yeah, and these are square. If I move just
No,
the
they're
right
not
way,
square. They're opposed to each other.
I mean, there's the sun and moon are
The sun
square.
and moon are squared, but
Oh,
now
yeah, the
fortune
sun
and
and moon
spirit
are
are opposed.
square.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sun and moon are square, and
Fortune and spirit are opposed to each other.
right. So now I'm at the exact square, and fortune and
Whoa.
spirit are exactly opposition. That's what Kai was referring to. So this
Wow.
fortune and spirit, as you go from new moon to full moon, they move in like a mirror symmetrically from the ascendant to the descendant.
Do full moon for completion. And I'm willing to bet this actually helped establish some of the lunar symbolism.
Mhm.
Well, these are projections of the moon phase from the ascendant. So it's how
Yeah.
we're related to our own natal moon phase.
Right, right.
Right. Exactly. In fact, that's how they described it in some of the ancient literature. They say you take the moon, take the distance of the moon past the sun, and attach that to the ascendant. So it's another way to look at it.
Right. Well, that's what you get with fortune and spirit is you take sun minus moon and you pull it go off the ascendant with it.
Yeah. Well, all this is wonderful, fascinating theory.
All I can say is you had me at mathematical elegance. I haven't really, messed with Arabic parts much in the past, but I can see the theory has an elegance to it. It's something I'm going to have to start looking at more from just a mathematical perspective to
Yeah.
see what patterns I find, and then see how that relates to
We
traditional
wish you would.
astrological.
And I guess when I was saying about the lunation cycle symbolism, what I really was thinking about, and I misspoke, was the critical days. If we go back to Hellenistic time, in the theory of critical days, when you're sick and the movements of the moon.
Yeah.
So,
Huh.
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So, Christopher, if you want to pursue the math, I recommend you watch some of those videos I made because I came up with this idea of cousin primes and all this stuff. Not cousin primes. I mean, that's something else.
Cousin and twin.
Cousin parts and twin parts.
Parts. Yeah. There's also cousin
Yeah.
primes, which is why I got the slip. But anyway, and I don't know, I don't remember what I figured out, but there's some kind of mathematical relationship between, I think it's a similarity between the 3 points or something. I forget.
Okay, David, Miera Epstein's giving a talk on the philosophy behind part of fortune and spirit in May for Ask. So if you want, I'll send you a link to it. Okay.
Okay,
when it's
cool.
happening, you can be there because Miera does great work. So
Oh, yeah. And so that's the Astrological Society of Kentucky.
yep,
And for other people, when is that going to be and how can they find
it's
out
going to
about
be
it?
May. I think it's May 10th.
It's the second Friday of May. Just a
Yeah.
minute here.
Where's my calendar?
Maybe you can put in the chat I guess there's a website for.
The
Yeah,
9th.
I'm gonna put the website in.
It's the 9th of May.
Go to
And as it happened right at this particular moment, I'm president of the group.
Okay.
and I'm director of programming.
Yeah, and he's director of programming. And you know, that plus $5 gets you a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think isn't it www.aboutasc.com, Linda? Is that the site?
About Ask.
Aboutasc.com, and everything you need to know is there. And if you just email us within a day or two of the talk and request a free link to the talk, you'll receive one. What's better than that?
Cool.
I mean, many things are, but anyway, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's www.aboutask.com.
Yeah, I've got it on the screen. Aboutask.com.
Oh, look, I don't remember the little turning globe. Huh.
Okay.
Well, it's been added recently. Who knows?
Yeah.
On the subject of events, Cosmobiology Institute is scheduled to have Starlene and Michelle speak on their research using extreme case sampling. That's supposed to be Sunday.
This
Starlene,
Sunday?
yeah, Starlene, why don't you? It's going to be. Is it this Sunday? And there's you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, it's this Sunday at I believe noon Eastern USA time, noon or 1. I'd actually have to double check on that. But yeah, we're going to be talking about extreme case sampling and how you can start a project with extreme case sampling and the tools that we use to do that.
Great. How can we see that, Starlene?
Let me get you a link. I'll put it in the chat room.
Great.
Yeah, you can get on the Cosmobiology Institute mailing list by going to cosmobiology.org. And
I think I might be, but let's see.
yeah, if you're not sure, you can always go there and then go to contact, and there's the form to fill out. And that should get you on the mailing list, and then you should get the reminders each month of the meetings. Every month we have this research meeting on the 4th Tuesday, and every few months we have a special program. And it's all free.
Cool. I'm doing it.
Yeah. Okay, so not much discussion about research projects tonight, but some fun discussion about some theory. Does anybody have any research projects you want to do or research methods questions? Anything related to conducting research? If not, Vincent, we could talk about your research, the discussions we were having, and I could continue with my endless numbers of questions. Vincent has done one of the most fascinating, and perhaps it could be like the most impressive research ever done. We really need to look at what he did, triple check it, go over it, because it's fascinating. And it's also quite complex. It's taking me a while to even understand all these steps that he went through. But do you want to hear about Vincent's research and the questions I have about it?
Maybe you can talk better than me because your English is better. But I answered your first mail the best way I could, and the second mail, the long one, you're going to have your answers tomorrow because I was not having so much good concentration to answer your difficult questions.
Okay. Well, let's see. We've got 45 minutes. Let me.
If nobody has anything else, I do have some research on presidents that I'd appreciate some ideas for what to do next.
Oh yeah, let's do that. I'd rather, my priority is to talk about research that you, the attendees, are doing. This is, Cosmobiology Institute is dedicated to research, and we're having these meetings to help you with research. We just got off on that theory thing because nothing else was coming up. So tell me about your interest in research on presidents.
Let's see. Before we
Yeah.
switch to Kai, I just wanted to ask the research that Vincent was doing that you're talking about. Is that the one on the progress charts and
Yes.
death
Yes.
that's in correlation? Yeah.
Yes.
Same issue that
Oh,
you have
okay.
your
I have
article.
that article. Okay.
The last
I
one.
really like that article, Vincent. I'll go back and look at it again.
One of the reasons why I'm excited about it, and this has to do with research methods, so it's something we should discuss, is personally, I find that there's a lot of mixing up of model building and model testing in astrology research, and sometimes it happens in psychological research in other areas. And I'm like a grammarian who goes nuts when people use wrong grammar. It just like grates my nerves. If you violate this, then you're violating, you're not using the research methods properly. And basically, it's very, very simple, is when you conduct your research, did you have, number one, a strict hypothesis at the outset of your research? Like, did you say?
Are you general or you're asking to me?
No, I'm asking you. This is general for everybody. Yeah. So this is general for everybody. When you conduct research, how specific are your expectations? Like, suppose I'm researching, I don't know, Mars square Uranus. So I'm thinking, oh, there's probably some kind of excitability, violence. Are you specifying exactly what aspect you're going to use, exactly what orbs you're going to use, and exactly what result you're expecting? Or are you going in with a general idea that Mars-Uranus is going to create some kind of disturbance, maybe accidents, and you're not sure exactly what aspects, and you're not sure exactly what orbs, so you're going to, play around. So you have some good idea, but not completely specific. And both kinds of research are very, very important. If you do not specify exactly, you can have knowledge discovery. You can discover something you don't know. You might discover that semi-squares or sextiles or who knows what is important and you hadn't really thought it would be. So narrowing your scope to one idea limits your ability to learn. That's not good. So why would you want to limit yourself to just one clear statement? Because if your statement is true, our confidence that you found something is extremely higher. Extremely higher.
Could you explain again why it's higher?
It's like if I say, suppose I put down two cards face down, and you say, I bet it's a three of hearts and a three of clubs. The probability that it's a three of hearts and three of clubs is extremely low. So if you're right, we're like, oh my God, that's amazing. But if you said, I think it's, they're both the same, it could be threes or fours or fives, you've given yourself many, many more possible right answers.
Mm-hmm.
So the more potential right answers you have, the less confident we are that you found anything because there are so many possibilities. The probability of finding something is much higher, just randomly.
Mm-hmm.
And what researchers are doing is they're not specifying a strict hypothesis. They're not saying, I'm going to use squares with a 3-degree orb. I'm going to give them all the same strength. I'm going to do this. I have not looked at the data yet. You have to get two things, a strict hypothesis and data you have not looked at before. And hopefully that was sampled in a fairly good way. There's sampling methods. So there's like three basic criteria. But what a lot of research is people do not have a strict hypothesis test, but then they use the criteria of a strict hypothesis test to decide whether they found something. That is illegal. The referee should penalty. It's like you get 3 strikes, you're out. You don't get 7 strikes or something. So very little research in astrology is a strict hypothesis test. That's good because that allows us to learn. And very often we do this more exploratory research until we're more confident, and then you start moving into more confirmatory. And it can be a general, a gradual transition to narrowing until you say, this is exactly what I expect. And that's why I'm not impressed with lots of astrology research, because they're using criteria for a hypothesis test on exploratory research, and it's just not impressive.
Mm-hmm. But
Do you all follow me?
But if they replicate, it's okay.
Well, if you replicate it, then that's a strict hypothesis test. Because in replication,
you built a model, then when you replicate, this is a strict test on the second time, yes.
Yeah, if you replicate it, like you do some research, you find out certain things are going on, now you get new data, and you apply exactly the conclusion that you got from your first research. You do not, you specify exactly what you're what your formula is and what the results are. That's a strict hypothesis test.
I find it so important that I'm very, very, very strict about that. I wouldn't publish anything if I didn't do it on the first time. I mean, I had a big discussion with the first time I met Robert Curry. He said, oh, replication is something you can do after. Yes, but I think self-discipline is very important before publishing. We should at least get a validation with independent data, even at the first publishing, because there's it's too probable that we make people lose their time to read something wrong. That won't work. That won't work.
I agree. I think that among researchers, we should share our models we're building, what we're exploring with other researchers, just so we're keeping up with progress. But for publishing and claiming a finding,
yes,
you have a strict hypothesis test.
But there's an exception. If you come with something written in a book and you have at the very beginning, you're not building a model, you're just testing an hypothesis already in a book, it's different. Like Kyosti's done many times, but it's completely different approach.
I have arguments with Kyosti's research.
Yeah, but it's only one research, but I read everything he's done.
No, I've only analyzed one of his things, and
normally he comes with a strict hypothesis, and he confirms it. This is okay. You don't need to replicate.
Yeah.
If you do it, it's better. It's better if someone do it, but I mean, it's okay for me.
Yeah. Okay, I might have just picked the one where he didn't have a strict hypothesis.
It was the first one. It was not clear because we don't have to go in an argument into that, but I know is everything he wrote, and I think he was not clear about what was exactly, and it changed during the process. So it looks like he just adjusted to kind of bias. So I understand your reaction.
Yeah. Well, exploratory research is wonderful. You just need to be clear about what it is, And Vincent, if I understand your research on secondary progressions and likely times of death, you built a model with some number of hundreds of death cases. Then you tested it with new data.
Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's because you did a test with new data and you used exactly the formula that you got with the building the model and you
exactly.
got very outstandingly good statistical significance. That's what's blowing my mind because I very rarely see that. And, I've read Kyosti's research and
Yeah,
it's, anyway, we
I
can
was,
debate that. I've never
I
read
was
anything
very
that
surprised. I was
was
very
that.
surprised. Usually my research go there. Rubbish. So this time I got a lot more failure than success. I was very happy that it worked. I was very surprised.
Yeah, whenever I get positive results, at least when I first started getting positive results, I forget, I have to go back and look. I think it was around 2005. I really didn't believe I was getting positive results. I had been getting negative results for 30 years.
Yeah, me too.
And I just said, well, this isn't going to happen in my lifetime. And I ran something with Gawk on data and I got positive results. I just said, well, that's, you can get hit by lightning too. I mean, that's just not real. But then I did another study and I got positive results, another study. And I said, what the heck? Astrology actually works. This is amazing.
Yeah,
But it took like 30 years before I
but
started
there's a
getting positive
but
results.
Santino, there's a big ambiguity here for what we mean when we say it works, because we know and we agree with the practicing astrologer that it works. We know it works because we practice it. But when we do research, it's another type of proof, or it's different in my mind. It's like you're so sure that you can bet your own life that you're not, that you're sure it works. It's a higher level of certitude than my intuitive certitude that it works, because I do
Yeah.
astrology since 45 years.
Excuse me, Santino. It's a little bit hard to hear Vincent's voice. Would you mind turning up the volume of the
Oh
participants?
no, it's my fault. I just lower it. Because I talk very loud.
Thank you, Penelope, because I've
Thank
been
you to
straining
tell
my
me.
ears trying to hear
Thank you.
Vincent. Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
excuse me. I'll correct that. Okay, 1 second. Oh, I apologize.
Go loud, Vincent.
Okay, usually I'm too loud. I'm not used to. So, okay. I suppose this is better now.
Is that better, Penelope? And
Is it better?
It could be a little bit louder.
It could.
It's my,
Yeah.
oh my God. Oh, maybe there's a setting in Zoom.
okay, while you're figuring that out, let me talk about what Vincent just mentioned about
Yeah, go ahead.
intuitive conviction and empirical conviction, we can call it, is that there was a big change started in medicine, then spread to psychology and other fields. I'm trying to remember. I think it started in the 1980s, built in the 1990s. And this term evidence-based didn't even exist before the 1970s, I think it was. And so now all of the professions are requiring things to have support from data. No longer depending on your personal conviction, but you have to now demonstrate it. It's more rigorously enforced.
Yeah. Yes.
In the professions, and so there are two different things. There's personal conviction, and then there's empirical confidence. And one of the questions for astrology is, can astrology cross a bridge from personal conviction to high confidence empirically? And so, so when I say it works, what I meant is the empirical verification started happening, which never happened before. And also on personal conviction, I personally do not agree with most modern astrology or Vedic astrology. That's just my own personal belief system. So, but anyway, everybody's got their own personal belief system. And, to me, that's not very
What don't you
important.
agree with, David? I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand.
Well, I shouldn't say I don't agree with it, but I don't have any confidence that it works.
In what works? Maybe that's what I missed.
Ruler of zodiac signs, for example.
Oh, okay. Got you.
Oh, you didn't read my second article in correlation about the sock about sun signs?
I
Yeah,
have it.
no,
I
actually,
have it. Your articles require time and thought in a good way. Christopher will back me up.
For me too, a lot of work.
yeah, no, that's exactly it. I mean, I read the article, but I have to go through it carefully.
Yeah.
And going through your research takes me a long time because it's so sophisticated. I can't just read it and go, oh, he found something. I read it and I go, oh my God, like, wow, this is like listening to Rachmaninoff play the piano. Like, oh my, I can just play three chords. So it takes me a long time to.
Yeah, but actually, this one about the zodiac signs, sun signs is simpler. I just
Yeah, no, I
started.
read it, but I need to get the data. I need to run it through.
Oh yeah, okay.
I have to run through everything to see.
Yeah. I'm like you. I understand you.
Yeah. Because mostly like when I redid the Gauquelin research, I redid other research that I trusted, I found that, it's so easy to make mistakes. Even my own research, I'll come back and I'll look at it 6 months later and I'll think, what's wrong with you? You have like 5 mistakes in there. So, it's just so easy to make mistakes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Santino,
Yeah.
I'd like to point out that statistics is wonderful for taking things in traditional astrology that we have discovered through all of these extensive case studies over the centuries. Statistics is wonderful for verifying that those things work.
I agree.
But on the other hand, if we were trying to develop astrology solely through statistics, solely through things like statistical tests, I think it would be very difficult to come up with the kind of coherent theory of astrology, Western astrology that we have now. So I think both tools are needed, both the traditional case studies that have been done for centuries and things like the statistical tools, the extreme case sampling, and things of that nature. They kind of go hand in hand, I believe.
Yeah, my advice to people is to always just follow your passion. Like if you're really turned on by Starling, you're researching ADHD, because she's excited about ADHD and you have I have friends who are Vedic astrologers and they're very passionate and very convinced about all kinds of rules they're using in different zodiacs, sidereal zodiac. I just think you should follow whatever your intuition and passion is.
And your passion, right, yeah.
And see if your internal conviction can be confirmed through observation.
Remember, within India, Jyotish is not what we have here in the West. It's starting to become that, but there's all sorts of elements and complex inner systems in Jyotish that most Western astrologers don't learn about or hear about. My favorite is the hypothetical medical planets, Gulika and Mandi, and there are others, right? But most people won't even know that Indian astrologers are working with them. So,
Well, Indian astrology is, the deeper you go into it, the wilder it is, and the more radically different it is. I mean, just to do Sapta Varga, if you use Charek's formulas,
the divisional charts,
it's very
right?
complex.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very intricately complex.
And I only learned that when I started attending online some Hindu astrology conferences that were mostly organized by Indian astrologers. And I became like, wait a minute, this stuff is really complex.
It's extremely complex. It's bewilderingly complex.
Indra's net, David. Indra's net. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Kai, you want to talk about research on presidents?
Yes. Do you mind if I share my screen?
Yes. Let me give you the ability to do that. Oh, a lot of people showed up later. Welcome, everyone. It's wonderful. What am I looking for? Kai.
You can't keep them away, David.
Oh, this is wonderful.
Oh my God. I didn't see that.
Okay, Kai, you can share.
Okay. So this is what I've got started with here. I've taken the presidents that I do have data for. This set is anything that's not DD data. So it includes B and C because getting old data is difficult. I also have a set that's just AA, A, and B data. But I've taken the president that won, compared it to various points of the inauguration chart, and I picked inaugurations because they're well documented. And then the corresponding person that was running that is a loser, and also their comparisons. And so I've split it into quanta by 5 degrees in a unit, so 72 possibilities, and quanta by 10 degrees in a unit, 36 possibilities. And then tracked when there's what angle it is, and tracked all of that. And there are a few things here that do show up, like 7 instances of the winner's Pluto to the event cusp at 170 degrees in a 10-degree quanta. And we don't see corresponding stuff happen over in the losers. I do have all this as pretty graphics. So let me put that on Pluto, since that was a significant thing.
Kai, let me interrupt a second to confirm.
Mm-hmm.
You have the exact minute of the inauguration because you're using the house cusps at the inauguration, is that correct?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I've gone back and found the ones that I have minute of the inauguration and decent data for both of the people involved.
So that's very cool that they have the minute of inauguration going back historically. You were able to find that. And so
Yeah.
Kai, is that the moment when they started to take their oath?
That is the moment when the official inauguration starts. That's what's documented. Where the oath is in that process varies quite widely and is not well documented. So,
okay.
I've got a stupid question. That inauguration moment is used as a simple transit on the natal chart of each president or each candidate. Is that what you've done?
Yes. I'm taking the I'm taking the event moon, 12th cusp, sun, fortune, midheaven, and ascendant. And that's what I'm comparing to the natal data for the candidates, both candidates.
Sun, moon. Oh no, you got everything. Mercury, Venus, Mars, everything. No.
That's the
that's
the person.
natal. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the person.
And the event, can you repeat it, please?
Ascendant, midheaven, sun, moon, fortune, and the 12th house cusp.
Great.
Oh,
that's what I've got in there right now.
Why did you restrict to those points? Is there any reason? I don't understand.
I started with the sun and moon because I figured they were big things.
Yeah, sure.
And I didn't really see anything. And so
okay.
Then I started tracking down exact times so I could use house cusp.
Yeah.
And then I went to ascendant and midheaven and I saw a few things. And then I read Doan's work on presidents, and she talks about the 12th cusp frequently. And that's when I put the 12th cusp in, and that's when I started getting 7s instead of just 6s.
What do you mean by the 12th cusp? What house system?
Same question, Linda. Thank you.
Currently in Regiomontanus, but I do have another file that's in topocentric. I had to do topocentric in a different program. But it doesn't have all of the pretty graphics on it.
Also do
the variation is less than 4 degrees.
Okay.
Kai, did you do fortune as well?
Yes, fortune is in here as well.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention, Vincent, you got too high. If you could lower your volume.
Yeah, that's the Zoom. Okay, thank you. I corrected. I changed the Zoom.
Just a little bit down, but a little bit down would be much better.
What about this? You think is correct?
A little higher than that.
Higher now? Okay.
A little higher.
Kai, I love the graphics. They're great.
Higher like that?
Yes. Yes, that's
Okay.
good.
Thank you, Linda.
The one thing I don't have control over in the graphics in Excel is the automatic sizing. So notice that this one goes to 7 and this one only goes to 2.
Hmm.
Kai,
Okay.
let me
Notice that.
suggest you try another point.
Okay.
Try the 12th house cusp 30 degrees before the ascendant, the equal,
Oh, the equal house. Yeah.
and see what that one does.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Get a
also
little-
thought about do you think I need a null set? I was kind of using the losers as the nothing happens because they're also there competing.
I think you need a null fit. The losers are an anti-fit.
Okay. Because I
You're talking, Kai, about what makes a good control group?
yeah,
Yeah.
for something like this. I mean,
Yeah, I'd like to get
part of the reason I
Christopher's
picked
opinion
this
on that.
is
Christopher, what do you think about winners versus losers? Do we need some other kind of control group? I mean, I have some thoughts on it, but
Yeah, I would probably start with winners versus losers.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to think about picking people randomly for a control group. That would also work. The other thought I have is it seems like you could use this setup to take all the different house systems that are out there to see, which ones work the best with respect to this discovery.
yeah, I thought about just doing a
I've got
survey
some-
of
Yeah, and
house
if
systems.
you're going to do that, use the equal from the midheaven as one of them and see what happens with it.
But you
Yeah,
said
I
also
thought about just sticking the non-adjustable in here.
from the ascendant. Also, you said, Linda. You
Yes.
said
Yeah,
equal from
well,
the
I
ascendant.
know.
Actually, Kyosti Tarvainen made a research and he studied a lot of systems, and the one you're telling us came first.
Which one, Vincent?
The one you said.
Equal
Equal.
from the ascendant?
Yes. Koch,
Well,
Koch, and this one came first.
Okay. In VA, we use 3 house systems. We use the equal from the ascendant, equal from the midheaven, and equal from the vertex.
Oh,
The equal from the midheaven seems to relate to expressions out in the world, which is why, that one might be especially important for the research you're doing, Kai.
mhm.
Now, is that in the event charts, in the transits, the equal from the midheaven point? Because that's what or should I be looking for that point from the natal ascendant?
What do you think, David?
well, Kai, you're looking at the ascendant and midheaven of the event.
Yes.
So because you're looking at the ascendant, midheaven, of the event, then using equal from the ascendant, equal from the midheaven, equal from the vertex of the event is something that in VA we would look at because we have a certain amount of confidence that those house systems are meaningful, and midheaven especially related to projecting out in the world. So, yeah,
Right.
it might be important for this.
I'd like to come back a little before Kai. First, congratulations. I love what you do. This is a very nice research. Really.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
We talk about control group. This is obvious, but there's another issue which is as important as control group, is giving you initially, at the very start of your research, the possibility of replication. So my first question would be, how many presidents did you have at your disposal?
So for the AA set,
The complete set of winners.
oh, the complete set,
How many of them?
we had everybody, 81 values.
You had 81 and
81. Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
81.
Now some of those get eliminated because they
Oh, yeah,
we
I
have
see
dirty
it.
data
DD,
and
yes.
stuff like that. But that's I could
Yes.
track.
Mhm.
That's enough that I could track most everybody.
It's not a very big amount. So
Right.
the other numbers I see are controlled. If you go lower,
After 80, I saw their names, but it was random. Yes.
Yeah,
No.
so for this set that is just not DD data, there's 36. 36 winners, 36 losers.
So you don't have enough to put a certain quantity, proportion of them aside as raw, untouched. Because
Right.
when you do it, because it's very, I regret, because normally, let's say you had 200s, you work, let's say with 150, exactly the same way you've done. You forget 50 completely. You put them in a locksmith on ice. You don't touch it. So then you work, and with a control group, and then you find some apparent laws, rules. Then you take your 50 remaining and you check what you found. This is an absolute. So I don't know, because I love what you do, but now with 40, with 80, you cannot do that.
I started with this because it was a limited set, but also I have problems because it's a limited set.
Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah. I do have a good deal of data on the vice presidents also.
Oh, okay.
But in 1804, the way the structure worked between vice presidents and presidents changed.
Maybe if you go in other countries, if maybe it's a universal.
That's a good idea.
I would love to see you working with 400s. Keeping aside a certain amount. This is so strong. You come with, let's say you come with certain findings, and you just validate those findings with the remaining data, untouched data. This is atomic bomb. We need atomic bomb with astrology.
Yeah, I agree with Vincent. These tables you've created are wonderful. This is just fantastic research. And, but if you're limited to just the American presidents, you won't be able to replicate. You won't be able to do another study with new data. And then Vincent came up with this idea, possibly it'll work for other countries. If it does, then that means you could apply what you learn here to new data for other countries. I don't know.
I would probably mix them at the very beginning, because if you're working with American president, then you come with French president. It's not sure. There could be a certain qualitative difference that will make you fail. But if you mix all the president at the very beginning with, let's say, 500 president with a lot of countries, you mix them all like there's no difference, and you work on that sample, you're less at risk of finding something idiosyncratic. I don't know the word in English. Idiosyncratic, specific to American presidents. You want to make it universal. Make it universal at the very beginning of your research. You agree?
Yes, I agree.
The one thing I would think about with that is that if you can collect data from a bunch of countries and get specific timing, you might want to randomly split the people from each country into two groups, so that you have both groups have about the same number of people from each country.
Ah, yeah, yes. That could be done too.
It might be interesting also to look at not only winners and losers, but also winners, losers, compared also to a shuffled control group.
That's what I was wondering about, if that would be worth it. I started on that, but time and everything else. I haven't gotten to my shuffled control group yet, but I have shuffled the data, mixed up their birth dates, and then matched them up with corresponding years that they would have been viable to be president, because we have to keep age in mind, right? You can't take somebody born in 1776 and inaugurate them in 1782.
Just a comment, Christopher, this is absolutely unavoidable. It's what you say, to work with a control group is always a necessity. That was in the basement for me. That's you cannot go without a control group. I agree with you, but
Yeah.
I was on the other problem of your sample should be a little bit bigger if you want to replicate it. But every time you work, even with small sample, big sample replication, you're always against a control group because your control group is the simulation of randomness. So you need it all the time. So Christopher is absolutely right, but this is unavoidable. But this is, by the way, this is easy. You generate control groups like this. The problem is the real data. This is tough job to find the real data. Control group it's a mathematical trick.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know how you do your control group. You take real people who are not president, or you generate them randomly.
I took the birth dates, the times, and the places and reshuffled them.
Perfect. That's the good method, I think, unless we find something better.
Yeah.
This is the method practiced by Kyosti and Ruiz. I think he's the creator of that method. Ruiz, I don't know him. So this
Yeah,
is
so I think we all agree about this, that having the winner, the loser, and the shuffled control group,
all the time.
That's what you really need to have.
So
a
should that
really
control
good
group be divided into like halves so that half is winning and half is losing and kept in that method, or
No, I
just a
would compare the
third?
winners to the shuffled, compare the winners to the shuffled control group to see if those winners really do have the things you're seeing.
Okay.
But she has something very subtle. Like when she generates her control group with her shuffling method, should she generate a control group after only the winning data on one side and only with the losing data on the other side? I don't know. What do you think? I don't know.
I think if she compares the winners to the losers, is like Christopher said, that's a good place to start because you're just seeing what's going on. It's intuitively appealing.
Mhm.
Then do winners against the shuffled control group to confirm that there's really a difference. There may be
Right.
something that's causing people to lose. And you can compare the losers to the shuffle, make a control group for them as well. But doing winners versus losers, we're assuming
Yeah,
that the
sure.
winners
Yeah,
had some
sure.
good things going on, but it may be that the losers are having bad things going on. And
Maybe I think that if I want to generate a kind of model to differentiate the winner and the losers against a control group, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong. I would probably mix in my sample the winners and the loser as a big bunch of people, or then I would do the shuffling, and I would use that big sample. That big control group against the winners and against the loser with my model.
no, I wouldn't do that.
And also what you say, like try to differentiate the winner from the losers. But it's come after the model building against the control group.
I would suggest that the control group, the shuffled control group, be done of just the winners.
Yeah,
And
maybe
then compare-
maybe you're right. I don't know. What do you
And
think?
then, let me finish my reasoning
excuse
for
me.
why, which is that, and then you compare the winners against the shuffled control group.
Yeah.
The idea of the shuffled control group is that they're going to have the same distribution of years, same distribution of times of day, and same distribution of places. So the shuffled control group is marvelous, and as Vincent said, it's so easy. You just shuffle it. And if you get a difference between the president's winning and the shuffled control group, you're very confident you found something because that shuffled control group is artificially conservative. It's artificially so similar to your experimental group, the president's, that if you get a difference, you're very confident there's a real difference.
I think you're right. Maybe I was wrong. I mean, you're maybe better to do what you do,
Yeah.
like shuffling the winners than shuffling for the losers separately. What do you
Yeah.
think, Christopher? I'm not sure, but I think Santino
Well,
is right.
I would think that if you created a shuffled control group using the winners, and then also a shuffled control group from the losers,
Yeah.
we would expect those two shuffled control groups to look pretty much the same.
I think so, because
And
yeah.
so that would be nice to kind of confirm that they look the same.
Yeah, I agree.
You could compare
It'll
them
be
all
good to do the winners against both control groups as two separate tests and do the losers against both control groups only as a secondary confirmation. But the primary thing, I think, is the winners against the winner control group and the losers against the loser control group.
Yeah.
Yes. There's another point that we didn't discuss. Maybe Kai, I don't know if you're familiar with models, but let's say you work the way you work and you find 6 very significant factors in your model, in your columns. The fun begins when you do a model with those factors, a weighted model, what we call a regression model. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's fun because it's very close to astrology signatures. So if you do that, you're modeling, and this is really strong. You can get something very significant by mixing your strong factors with weighted coefficients. But maybe you're not familiar, but you should be. We can help you to do that.
I'm sure I can sort it out fairly quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, let me repeat what
I don't
Vincent
know.
said.
I don't know you. I don't know you.
Yeah,
No worries.
let me underscore the point. What you have here is marvelous, and because it allows you to use your intuition, your content expertise, as we call it, and you get visualizations. And then after you work with this for a while, if you find, a certain group of variables that look good, you can extract just those out of all these different things. Maybe you only have 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 columns of, variables. And then you put that into a regression analysis, and it will weight each one of them.
Yes.
And that can become your final astro signature, your theory for what causes a president to win. Then you could try it with presidents from another country. That's what I want to make another point also that Vincent was making, which is I did research on gold prices, and I found formula that I think predicts gold prices, but I ran into a huge problem. I used all the data.
Yes.
And then 10 years later, Linda said, oh, look, you did that research 10 years ago, or whatever it was, something like 10 years. Let's run it again. We did. And with that 10 years data, we got good confirmation. Now we have to wait another 10 years. So this problem of running out of data can be really, can put a roadblock in front of you. And that's why Vincent was saying, you're using all of your data. Once you find something that looks wonderful, the desire to test it with new data is so strong.
Oh yeah, I made the same. It's fun, Santino. I made the same mistake with SP500 stock market, and I used all the data, and I had to wait. I was beginner, but it's so easy to put aside. You take all your. And by the way, I think gold is a better target than SP500, which is a moving, complex target. If I had to do it again, I would do it on gold. That was a good intuition, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I found that specific. In all of my research, I found that the more specific the thing you research, the better your results are.
Yes, yes.
You have less variability. We call it variability in the experimental group. The less variability there is.
But maybe you can do it. Maybe you can just put everything in the garbage, and you can make it again from 19th century with the, I don't know which years you have for the gold, and do it again, putting aside
Well,
25,
one of the problems is
20
once
years, and you do it again from fresh.
yeah,
Because all the worst is done. Now you designed a model,
yeah.
a research design. So okay, that it's easy to say, but maybe you're not motivated.
Well, no, the thing is, I'm kind of a purist. Once I look at data, I will not use it again and claim that I'm doing a hypothesis test because it violates the rules. You have to use completely new data. I mean, I can go back just to build the models and play with it.
Yeah, that's what I meant from
But
fresh.
once I've looked at data, I can't use it for testing. It's no longer
Oh,
test
yeah,
data.
you're afraid to be biased.
It's biased. It will be
Yeah, I
biased.
know. Yeah, it's not
I mean,
easy.
bias is like a very
Yeah, the sin. It's a big sin.
and it's sneaky. You get bias when you don't think you're even getting it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Vincent,
Yes.
when you're talking about the regression analysis,
Yeah.
if there's a tool in Excel that you're always using for that
Yeah.
produces all those weights. Or
Yeah. The solver.
what's that called?
Solver.
Solver.
So solver. There's three methods. One is very linear method. I don't remember the name. Another one I use the more sophisticated one. The last one works by trial and errors, but very sophisticated method that goes very fast with thousands of trials and errors to get peaks, to get maximums. So the solver will give you will maximize a certain cell, which could be a p-value or a z or anything, or it would minimize. If it's a p-value, you want to minimize it. So it's nice. It worked well.
Yeah. So Kai, you have the ability to do regression
I think
right
so.
within
She
Excel
said,
because you have solver
Yeah.
right there. She put a cursor on it.
okay.
And the solver you have to use it in the proper way to make it function as a regression. And, you can read about it and Vincent can help you with that. Because it's
Maybe she's better than me. We see solver on your screen. Yeah,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is it.
That's part of the data analysis pack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If ever you're like me, not clear about all the parameters, which one I choose on 001 or 0001, go have a good conversation with ChatGPT. Will help you a lot to make your decisions. He's a good teacher.
Yes, I've been working through Gemini.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Obviously, but it helps a lot. It's a very, very good teacher.
Who's the
We're running out of time. So Kai, is there more stuff we can look at before we completely run out of time?
I'm wondering if there's other statistical tests that would make sense with this kind of data. I mean, I'll expand my set to include some null sets, control groups, and to include other countries, because the highest I've gotten is a 7 out of 32, and that's a big probability. Well, a little probability, but it still seems very small to me to be anything reliable.
But Kai, even if you observe a very, very, very low probability, if you don't replicate, it could be what Jung called a trick from the gods.
Right. This is such a small data set.
Exactly.
And such a small probability. I don't trust it yet.
Yeah.
Yes. But you're in a good track. I mean, your research is promising, really.
Yeah.
You can do statistical tests for proportions, can't you? Given, you've got a certain thing happening with a certain proportion among the winners, a different proportion among the losers, and there are tests to compare those proportions to see if they're significantly different from one another.
What do you mean by proportion?
It's a statistical
like a percentage. Like when you said 7 out of 32.
Oh, okay.
7/32 for winners, 1/32 for losers, something like that. And then
I've
yeah,
just taken my my words raised to the power of, what is that? Exponent probabilities.
yeah.
That's what these are, exponent probabilities.
Oh, I'm not sure. It's no. You better do what Christopher says, or
Yeah, you can do
or
a test of proportions. It's it's a statistical test.
yeah, yes. To get a p-value, I'm not sure your
I don't have any
your exponent
p-values.
your p-value with the exponent I see on your screen. 1 divided by 36 exponent blah blah blah. I'm not sure this is legit, or I don't know.
It's not a p-value
Oh,
because
okay,
I'm not
okay.
testing against anything else.
Oh,
It's a probability.
Oh, okay.
So this is out of 36 because it's in the 10 quanta, so there's only 36 options it can hit.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is out of 72 because there's only 72 options it can hit. So I don't have any p-values in here, partially because I felt my data set was too small.
When you say a test of proportion, Christopher, let's say Kai has a control group and she tests what she observed against the control group. That could be a mean test. That could be very close to a proportion test, actually. It's equivalent, no? Do you agree?
Let's see. What are you adding together? What are you getting? How are you getting your mean?
It depends. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because here it's raw value, just a raw frequency. So it's better with proportion.
These are arc distances.
Yeah.
You could look at things like a z-test for two proportions, or you could do a 2x2 table and do a chi-square test or Fisher's exact test, and they'll all give similar results.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Can I say something?
Yeah, yes. Let me just underscore that for Chi. Fisher's exact test, the chi-square, all those variations are things you can look at. They'll all give similar results.
Yes.
They can be used with this.
I think you can do all of those on Excel.
Yeah, I know how to do chi-square tests for sure. I've done that many times, and I can look up the other stuff.
Yeah, there are variations on the same idea. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
The problem with Kai's work is that she have a limited number of tests. Why is she not widening it to governors and many governors? And she would have a better volume of people winning and losing. And governors are just like presidents, so you just can use those.
Well, I didn't pick other variations in government because they don't have inauguration dates. That's the thing I'm comparing to. They have elections, but there's no like ceremony that begins their official, role. And inauguration is very much a ceremonial start of something. So that's why I was using that.
So you would trust more because of that to go in other countries than staying in the United States with government. I was seduced by that idea, but your answer is good.
Because I did look at that, but I couldn't find reliable election beginnings, reliable election ends. The only thing I could find that was reliable was this inauguration, and I thought it was good as a symbolic start.
Yeah.
Why don't you use the moment, because when election day comes, it's right through the country. It's a certain time when it's over, and when you can use that and use that and
post 1922.
What happened? Your volume will increase immensely if you use the governors right across the board. 50 states use right across the board. You might use it from 1970 coming right down, and your volume will increase immensely. What you would do, instead of use the inauguration day, you use the election. Election day would serve as as a
But
beginning point.
elections don't have the recorded times. That's what I can't find. I can find days.
No.
I can find ranges, but I can't find times.
You see, the moment that you see the thing is that when you kind of put everything just one cap in words, and I'm saying that this is the beginning. The beginning can be in other terms. So you got to not have it tunneled in just one viewpoint. Expand your viewpoint from there, because if you do astrology a long time,
but maybe excuse me, maybe you're right, but this is another research. It changed completely.
No, I wouldn't say it would be another research. It would because I know when somebody begins to make a move, it's going to be right there when the election is actually saying this is when you are starting, when you win. And across the board, you're going to find that the election day is going to move. What's happening is that the difference in different charts of the individuals will come to play at that moment when they say, well, this is 11 p.m. We strike John Paul, he lost 35%, whatever, and that's where you begin. To have it just tunnel on just inauguration day, you kind of make yourself limited on that. What it is, the beginning, the moment when it happens that they say, well, you are the winner. That's the whole point. And then you can serve up a lot more numbers for your research. That's
I look forward to seeing your research on that as the beginning of the election process.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a number of fields of astrology, especially if you want to say, oh, race astrology. If you do something like that, you're not going to get caught up with the inauguration day, because you start to think of energies and where it begins. The moment when it's already constructed that yes, 11 p.m. you are the winner. That's when you start. It don't have to be the celebrated point that where everybody say, well, we want to have it that the president is inaugurated on the 20th. No, it's the election day. That's the time when it begins. That's when it serves up to say, well, you are the winner. You go ahead and you will better results. When you do that, you will find more, and then you will have it. You will get more vice presidents. You will get more people, because governors are like presidents. So those are the things that you should look at. You can't be one word too much on it, and then you kind of lose your the viewpoint. They are presidents. They are leaders of cities, smaller states. Boom, boom. That's basically it. Do it that way, and what you will have better results in what you're doing.
Okay, yeah, so those are good thoughts. There may be some additional dates and times you can use. Okay, we are 15 minutes over. I think, Kai, we can continue next month with with where you're at with your research, because I like working with people's actual research projects. And we have another person who couldn't make it tonight, and Greg Howard. He's doing research and he has some questions. We can go over that. Yeah, so even if you're not conducting research, if you're thinking about conducting research, you have some ideas, you have some questions about how to proceed, this brainstorming is wonderful. It was great to have Vincent here, who's got a lot of expertise in research methods. So the more people we have, more information we get. Was really helpful. Any last comments before we sign off? Are we all good?
I want to say thank you. I appreciate the input.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Really, I agree with Vincent, Kai. What you're doing is really, really cool. Really nice. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Have a good month. And yeah, let's dig into whatever research topics and questions you have. Have a good night. God bless.
Bye.
Right.